Have you been looking for that perfect spot in Texas and you're not really sure where you're going to end up? You can work remotely, so it really doesn't matter about your job, where you're going to move to. And you know that Texas is the place. Well, today we're going to settle the great debate. Which area of Texas is better? Is it the north side of Texas, or is it closer to the south? Is it in the middle, east, west? We're going to talk all about those things and a little bit more. And today we have a special guest. He is live from South Texas. So here we go.
Hey, Rebecca, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing really good today.
Thanks for having me on. And let's just end this debate right now. You see water behind me? You guys don't have that, right? So you see like the hilly part over there? That's a hill. You probably don't have that either. So why don't we just end this broadcast? No, I'm just kidding. Thanks for having me on. It is a gorgeous day. It's probably 89 today, right around there. It's going to dip all the way to 70 tomorrow. But New Braunfels, Texas, and South Central Texas. So bring it on.
All right. Well, first, I kind of want to, let's chat about the weather since you kind of brought it up first.
Yeah.
So the weather there seems pretty mild right now.
Yeah.
So you were in the low 80s?
Today we're about mid 80s, and it was pretty dry. I mean, the humidity, so I'm up early in the mornings. The humidity is like 95 degrees, or I'm sorry, 95%. And, I'm working out typically and I sweat, but then it starts to lift as the clouds kind of pull apart. So today was pleasant. Tomorrow's going to be pleasant, but we haven't gotten into May yet. That's a different story.
Okay.
And June, July, we can go. Last year, I remember last summer here, we went 6 weeks, triple digit, no rain.
Okay. 6 weeks, triple digit.
I'm going to remember that snow. I'll remember that snow.
You remember the snow. Okay.
So it was a little chillier where you're at today?
Yeah, today we were in the 50s for the most part of the day, 50s, 60s. So it wasn't terrible, but it was a little chilly. You probably need a little light sweater to kind of get around. I had to take off my sandals. I was so sad. I was like, man, I love it when it's sandal weather outside. And so whenever I have to.
You have to move to New Braunfels to get that kind of stuff, man. You're wearing parkas where you're at.
We don't have to wear a parka. But I mean, so I'm in, and we forgot to mention this. Right now, I'm in McKinney, Texas, which is one of the northern suburbs of Dallas. And then, Rod, where are you at?
New Braunfels. So right in between San Antonio and Austin. It's the perfect tweener town.
The tweener town. Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about, would you say that the climate and the weather that you're experiencing is pretty similar to Austin and San Antonio? Would you say, since you're right smack dab in the middle?
Absolutely. I look at the weather every morning and we're just maybe 1 degree off. Everybody's the same. And as you go further up in the hill country area, while we're talking about weather, it's going to get a little bit cooler.
Okay.
I mean, we're not talking 50s, but I mean, it gets some. I'm not knocking you, but it gets a little bit cooler. But it's pleasant, especially in the summer. So the hill country is where you want to be. Today we are at New Braunfels. Rebecca, is really the start of the hill country. Okay, it's not the middle, it's not the end, and it goes up from there, Mulverde, Bernie, Fredericksburg, and everything northwest, and it gets, the topography and the scenery really gets just more breathtaking the higher you climb. So we're at New Braunfels. We're at the start of the hill country, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It is just an ultra active outdoor lifestyle here. We have fishing going on over here. I don't know if I can show this really quick, but you can see a family fishing over there, and a family out, and people are walking around. This is Landa Park. Landa Park is about 45 acres of walking, fishing, swimming, biking, hiking. So it's just being outside it's just a lifestyle here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that also the river behind you? Is it pretty common to see people tubing and floating on it in the summer?
Not this particular, this is Lake Landa.
Okay.
So we're at Landa Park, and it's fed by, well, I don't know if you can see, but you probably can't see if I can tilt it a little bit here. But that is the Comel Springs. So the Comel Springs is the largest underground freshwater source in the state of Texas. It's right here. So it's just, I mean, it's just natural resources, like you wouldn't believe. So the Comel is where you're going to find the most tubers, Rebecca, because it's shallow and it's, there's no rocks in it. Like Guadalupe is a little bit more adventurous for kayaks and canoes. So if you're like a kayak or a canoer, then you want to go on the Guadalupe. It's a longer river. It's a little bit more adventurous. It's faster. The Comel's like shallow, so more conducive to tubers.
Okay.
And we've already started here. I'm seeing people in the water on tubes, especially on the weekends. I see the buses go back and forth, and everybody is out, and just as if nothing happened. I think the only time I see people wearing masks here are if they're tourists, and they just kind of don't know. But I went to Green a couple weeks ago, and it was just like people having a great time. It was a Friday evening. There was live music there. People in Green Hall, people out to eat, people shopping. It is just New Braunfels is just a different cat.
Yeah.
It's so far different from Austin and San Antonio. I'm sorry about the wind, but can you stop wind? No. So it's a little less uptight here. It's a little bit more free here. And the people are super nice here. So there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, let's give people some perspective. I do want to share my screen really quick to kind of give people an idea of where in Texas. All right, so you can see that I am way up here in North Dallas, right there. There's McKinney. There's Dallas. Practically Oklahoma, right? So there's, just drive up there, we're in Oklahoma.
Oh, wow, you're close.
That is here. Kind of zoom in. You can see Austin and San Antonio, and he is smack dab in the middle. We've got San Marcos on the northern side, and then Braunfels just south of it, closer to the San Antonio side.
Yep.
And where are the rivers, and where are you at? Is it this side of town? There's I think where the downtown is, right?
Yeah, we're about a mile and a half from downtown.
Okay, are you north of that, or?
We are east of downtown.
So where this water is, there's the Guadalupe. Okay, there's Landa Park right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sorry, right now. Yeah, that's where we're at right now. Yep. So that green spot. So we're only 3 inches from McKinney. We're close.
Okay. 3 inches.
I'll be there in a second.
Right. So you're not so far south that you're Houston, though.
No.
And there's San Antonio.
Yeah, Houston's like an oven. I've been to Houston before, and obviously we know people. We have mutual friends who are in Houston, and it's just like the last time I went to Houston, Rebecca, it was like I was cheering for it to rain, because when it rains, after it rains, it typically cools down. Not in Houston. It's like a steam bath. Nobody goes out during the day, just at night. Like it's like an oven. It can get, it gets hot here in New Braunfels and in Austin and in San Antonio. Especially toward the, you'd figure at noon it'd be high temperature, but its warmest point is going to be around 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then it starts tailing down a couple degrees. Hey, look, I guess we're spoiled in a sense.
Yeah.
Because like you said, if it's 50 degrees or even 68, 66, I'm turning into a true Texan, because, I'm a transplant. So, but I'm a true Texan now because I'm getting cold when it's like 66 degrees, where like 40
Before it wasn't the case.
Shorts and a t-shirt.
Yeah.
So
So we talked a little bit about the geography too, but weather-wise, do you see any of the, let's say that a hurricane is headed for Houston. You're just east of Houston, right?
Yeah, so we're about 3 hours. So my parents ask me all the time, every time there's a hurricane in Texas, hey, you guys okay? We're like 3.5 hours away from it.
Okay.
So not only are we okay, we just have cloudy skies. Maybe we'll have sprinkles the next day, but knock on wood. If it's something that's, huge where the eye is just spread out,
Right.
You might feel something more than that. But in my time here, it's at the worst. It's been, storm or rain, but nothing where it's gonna, tear trees down.
Okay. Yeah. So not that kind of wind.
No, not that kind. I mean, it gets obviously windy, but that's just because we're heading toward the evening hours, and then it's supposed to be 70 tomorrow, and it was 85. So anytime you have that change in weather, your winds come in and ushers in like cooler.
Yeah, you got a body of water behind you too, so that also contributes to the wind.
Yeah. See, you are smarter than a fifth grader.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
I had no idea about that, but yeah.
Sea breeze coming in.
Yeah.
Are there any type of flooding? Do you have any flooding concerns or areas of flooding that see more rain during certain times of the year that you?
We had a lot of rain 2 years ago. Not a lot, but we had some rain, and there was, we're kind of by a river, so you can see it crept up some, but not your biblical floods. We haven't had that. There hasn't been floods here in, God, I don't know, has it been 20, 30 years? But when it does, it does. It's like snow. And when it snows, every 110 years. But nothing that I've seen. I mean, who knows though? We could see it this year. But so far, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised by anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
does that area also have drought conditions as well, to where you are water restricted, and there's drought-like conditions for the area too?
Yeah, I mean, so we have fire danger every day almost here in the summer.
Okay.
What's his name? Woodsy not Woodsy, Smokey the Bear. Woodsy the
Smokey the Bear, yeah.
Yes, not an owl, but a bear. So there's like dry conditions, so there's high danger conditions every day. And yes, we do have water restrictions, especially in the summer. Like if you're here, you can only water your grass then, and so forth. But for the most part, you don't notice it. People understand. People understand that it's like routine every year. They're just kind of waiting for it. If it doesn't happen, they're shocked. So.
Yeah. So you deal with the forest fires to a certain degree, but not really like California.
Really, no, we don't. It doesn't get quite that dry because we still have the humidity here.
Yes.
There's a lot of moisture in the air. But at the same time, you're not going to shoot off fireworks when the fire danger is high. So they won't let you do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense too, because you're just east of Houston, so you're the same latitude, so you're not as humid as Houston, I would say, probably, but it still gets pretty in the summertime right before it rains. Well, it's probably, like you said, in the morning, like you said, it gets pretty humid.
It does. In the morning, but we're talking before the sun comes up. I mean, we're talking 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. Usually by the time the sun comes up, the clouds, I notice, break up, and then it's clear. And so the clouds are not going to trap in your heat. That's how you get humidity. Whenever you feel that, I mean, I'm sure Houston with the Gulf there gets a lot of cloud coverage. So it traps in all that heat there, and it gets really steamy. But here, 95% humidity in the morning. But I mean, it's fine. It's pleasant right now. It's probably 77, 78 degrees right now.
Yeah.
And people are out, families are out taking pictures. There's high school kids taking senior pictures. There's a family fishing over here. There's people walking their dogs. Typically on the weekends, you'll see it, or in the morning, right behind me, you'll see people canoeing or kayaking. on this lake, and the golf course is directly behind me, not on the water, but just beyond the water.
Yeah.
Then Landa Estates, which is a Thurston Howell community, if you know what I mean. It's kind of like uppity up, you know. The homes there, like a 900 square foot home sold for $500 million. It's the area, it's the lifestyle, but it's all in this area. This is where, in a typical normal year, we have fireworks, so it's a big to-do, every 4th of July. And the Worst Fest is, just down the way, a few hundred yards.
Okay.
So hopefully we're going to be returning to all that. No word yet, but we've actually started having events at the event center in town here. So we had a pet fest about a month ago. There is a train show coming up this weekend. So things are open. We have a farmer's market every Saturday, and people are coming out for that. I mean, people are just. I was downtown today at the time. Just taping a video today at the traffic circle where the gazebo is, which is gorgeous. Yeah. And that traffic circle never stops. I noticed that. It's like there's a lot of noise down there, and there's a lot of traffic. It's not like you can just yield and say, okay, I'll go. You have to wait for like 30 seconds. Mm-hmm. So we've really boomed here, and especially the past 11 years. The word's out on New Braunfels, and it's just its location. It's a lot of stuff. I'm sure we're going to talk about that. So
yeah. So kind of hitting on the location part of it, or should I take a go at weather? I mean, I haven't really talked a little bit about the weather in North Dallas, Texas.
The weather out there is frightful, but I'm sure you'll tell it to us delightful. Go ahead.
Exactly. Well, so here in the north, let's see if I can do this. Sorry. So in the northern side of Texas, there are a couple different areas that I want to point out. So kind of bear with me here. So where I am is the prairies and lakes. So there are several lakes right around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and just outside of Dallas, there are lakes that will pop up. There's some in South Dallas. There's some in between the Piney Woods and the prairies and lakes. The Panhandle weather there is, to me, is more like, I guess, Oklahoma and New Mexico. So the further you go west, the more it seems like you're in New Mexico here, where you're in the Bend. And then with the Panhandle being here, that's more weather like Oklahoma. It does see a lot more severe weather than the prairies and lakes. So if you live in that Wichita Falls kind of area up here, or Lubbock, which is, I'm really bad at share. Go back and share the screen again. All right, so kind of pulling us back up north a little bit. Sorry, I have to zoom maps. There we go. Zoom out. Okay. So Amarillo, Lubbock, you get a lot more snow, a lot more wind, a lot more hail. It is more of a desert. You can tell that. You can see all of the green here, and then at a certain point, it turns into more of a desert atmosphere, very similar to New Mexico. The further north you go, the more it's gonna be like Oklahoma. So Oklahoma does see quite a few tornadoes, quite a few winter storms, winter weather. Maybe not necessarily blizzard conditions, but you still see all 4 seasons in Amarillo as well. Because North Texas is further away from the Gulf of Mexico, our climate is a little bit more, I would say, dry compared to New Braunfels, Austin, San Antonio, Houston. You are gonna have a lot more humidity in the air, a lot more moisture. Obviously, if you live right along the coast, you are going to be susceptible to hurricanes during certain times of the year. We don't even if the hurricane were to move and try to slowly dissipate and head straight to Dallas, we're not similar to New Braunfels. We're not going to be seeing that same, we may have a couple.
You're much further. Yeah, you're further up. I think we're about 3 hours away.
Yeah, you're not that far. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and that
like
would make sense how that's danger zone territory up there, because Oklahoma is pretty much landlocked, right?
Correct.
So you have no water. You have nothing stopping the wind. You have nothing stopping the heat. So I lived in Iowa for about a year, a long time ago. And when it was humid, man, you wanted to stay inside. And when it was cold for winter and there was nothing stopping that wind, it went right through your bones. So it's landlocked. There's nothing to stop it. There's no warm water to slow anything down. That's always going to happen. Always going to happen. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. And I think your hair is always going to be frizzy. For a time I lived in College Station, which if I can zoom in a little bit more. So College Station is right here. So College Station is where Texas A&M is. So I lived here for 4 years. And I will tell you that during my 4-year stay, even though we were kind of, I guess, on the way to Houston.
Yeah.
When it gets humid, and your hair, I mean, it's just like you're in Georgia, and you're just, all that humidity in your hair just continues to get like bigger.
Well,
and
have
bigger.
A lot of hair. You have to cut your hair. That's all.
Yeah, you have to cut your hair, I guess.
That's all.
Just cut your hair. That's all the problem.
Just cut your hair.
Yeah. Okay.
It's that easy.
Maybe I should invest in some more mousse and then just wear it curly whenever it's really outside.
Oh yeah, we're used to it in Texas, right? Especially in the summer. It's just that's why I'm always drinking water, probably about a gallon a day.
Yeah.
I try to stay hydrated because it can get pretty. If you're outside too, that's the thing. Atlanta Park, I love this place because people come to Texas, Rebecca, and they come to Braunfels and they're like, I'm surprised there's many trees out here, because they're probably thinking, well, it's going to be concrete, right? But the place where we're at today, Atlanta Park, I love it because there are trees everywhere, like mature trees. So they cover you. If it's hot outside, no problem. Just walk on the trails, walk around, and you're going to be shaded the entire time.
Right.
So it's awesome. I mean, it's just here. It's just like if you're not outside, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Because it really is an oasis. With like I said, the parks here, this being the largest one, the walking trails, the biking trails, the swimming, the water park, Schlitterbahn, the golf course, all of the activities going around, the events, like year-round events. We have Day of the Dead weekend here. We didn't have it last year, but I'm sure, hopefully it'll return this year. We have Worst Fest. We have 4th of July parade. We have a county fair parade and a county fair day all for the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
You're like a big small town. Is what it sounds like.
You know what? I'm always saying, see, now you see people are out having fun. They're chilling,
Yeah.
I catch myself saying town a lot when it comes to New Braunfels. And I think it is because New Braunfels is like 45 square miles. So it's like this. It's massive, right? We got about 70%, probably, I would say maybe it's lower now. Maybe it's 65% of people, the population lives in 78130, which is closer to the heart, the city. And the balance lives in the hill country area. When I talk about hill country, I'm talking maybe 7 or 8 miles away. It's not like hill country 40, 80 miles away. No, it's like right there.
Okay.
So it's there's a lot going on, but it's spread out at the same time.
Yeah. I think for the reason why, I guess, Dallas, so we're in the prairies and lakes, but there is quite a few lake activities and things to do there. So just to kind of give people a little bit more perspective about the lakes, I kind of zoom in here. So in Dallas, so we have, so I'm up here, I'm closest to Lake Lavon, which is over here on this side of town. And then just south of it is Lake Ray Hubbard. And then we've got Lake Louisville, which is where I used to live up in Denton County. And then we've got Flower Mound, well, this is Lake Grapevine because it's in between. It's right next to Grapevine. And then further south here, on the southwest, we've got Mountain Creek Lake. I believe this is Joe Pool. Not as familiar with there's Joe Pool. And then we have Lake Arlington, which is over here. You see, there's several nature preserves around here. There are even more lakes. As I zoom out, you can see why it's called the Lakes and Prairies, because there's a lake up here closer to Valley View. There's one over here by Bridgeport, one over here by Cooper. And, the further you go east, you start getting into East Texas. Over here by Quinlan, this is Lake Tawakoni is very popular. There's Lake Fork over here.
What is it? It's starting to look like Minnesota, like 10,000 lakes.
Right.
So what do you do? They boat, water ski, swim, all those things, snorkel. What do people generally do in those lakes?
So in the lakes, probably more or less, you got your boating, your water skiing, not so much snorkeling. Kind of think swimming, obviously, is popular too in certain spots. Whenever we were growing up, this is the lake that we used to go to over by Gun Barrel City, and my mom actually lives over here. This is Cedar Creek Lake, or it's called the Cedar Creek Reservoir. We used to we would boat and we'd go into the middle of the lake, and then everyone would jump out of the boat and swim for 30 minutes or so. And then we'd go back in the boat, float, go around somewhere else and hang out there. My aunt had a lake house, just outside, and lake houses are becoming, I think, more popular now than they ever were, just because it's an escape, right? Just like, if someone doesn't have to sit at a desk all day, and they can actually go and, work wherever they want to, why not move to New Braunfels? Why not move into your lake house, right? So that's kind of the demand that I'm seeing around the lake areas. And then also, like you said, probably another reason why people are, they're wanting to go close to Austin because Austin gives them that city feel. But then just outside of Austin, you've got the Hill Country, you've got New Braunfels, you've got San Marcos. Yeah. I mean, you're really surrounded by a lot of nature and beauty in that way. And I think that's a huge reason why those who can now work remotely, as long as they have a good Wi-Fi signal. And maybe we can talk about that a little bit later too, because I feel like the further you go out in the middle of nowhere, but
those communities, 9 out of 10 of those communities are going to have fiber optic, or at least that's what they build. You're right. People can work remotely. They're no longer tethered to their states, so they're going where they're going to be happy. And Texas is one of those places.
Yeah. And Texas does have a lot to offer. I mean, not only in the lush green, but the further you move into, I guess, more of a desert climate, there are some really beautiful places to explore in the basin area of Texas that I feel like are a lot of people don't live over there. We'll just put it that way. It is very deserty, so I mean El Paso's very similar in that regard too. It is more of a desert area, desert climate.
But I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but El Paso, does it get snow on occasion?
I would think so, because of its latitude, just where it's located. It probably does see snow occasionally, just like New Mexico. So think of it as an extension into New Mexico. So. I do want to share, before we get to, I think we had a new person that's on. He has a couple of questions, I think for you, Rod. But where did it go? So this is kind of the Mountain Basin that, you would see over to that West Texas area.
Yeah.
And back here to this graphic. So this is that was in Big Bend County. That's where you see a lot of the mountains and basins. and it's really, really beautiful. A lot of people love to, there's a lot of natural, or there are a lot of national parks that are over there. So it's very, very
we've always wanted to
beautiful.
go there. By the way, I think there's a mountain I want to climb. It's the highest point in Texas. I think it's called Mount Guadalupe, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
I'm not sure if it's in that area, but yeah, I definitely want to do that this year. But yeah, we haven't been out there yet.
Right. I wanted to also share this. I have an article that I pulled up that really talks to the geography of Texas. So I want to kind of share that really quick. So this was where I got it, essentially. And I'll have this link in the description below in case you want to look at it later. Those of you that are watching, we have quite a few people watching right now. So we've got, this is all based on the three sides of the Rio Grande, the Red River, the Sabine River, and the Sabine River. So we've got, Texas has a very wide geography to it. So the Panhandle obviously is going to be very desert, very flat. This is what you would see mainly in Lubbock. On the way to Lubbock, you'll notice that there are lots of flat, and there's not very many gas stations along the way. So if you ever were to drive from Dallas, and you would try to drive all the way to Lubbock from there, there's not going to be a whole lot of pit stops. It's going to be a lot of just flat desert. So you want to make sure that you are properly hydrated, that you have plenty of opportunities to go to the bathroom in between. They have rest stops and whatnot, but usually the drive is pretty uninhabitable, as far as you're not going to come across very many people along that trip. And it's very similar if you were to drive from Dallas all the way to East Texas into the Piney Woods.
So like have a lot of snacks and toilet paper.
Right, snacks, toilet paper, gas. Make sure that you're not on an empty tank when you make that trek, and you're going west or you're going east from Dallas.
So what you're saying is AAA is not going to come to bail you out.
Right. Well, they probably would. But I mean, it might take them a while to get to you.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very flat, very dry, very featureless when it comes to the road to El Paso and the road to Lubbock, and you're on your way in that direction. Lots of plains, wide open skies. It says so in that part of Texas, you're going to find the Palo Duro Canyon. There's some exhibits and obviously some national recreation areas. And then let's see. And the Panhandle too. This is a great point. The Panhandle, which if you go up here, come on, computer, come on. There we go. This area right here, it's very sparsely populated. So make note of that. And as a result of it being very sparsely populated, you can really find a lot of cheap land out there, because the population is not going to be very round and robust, right, like the Prairies and Lakes area, which is closer to the heart of Dallas-Fort Worth. That's where I'm at. So lots and lots of lakes around Dallas, a little bit to the east, a little bit to the west. It's not completely flat, surprisingly, in Dallas. There are some, it is hilly in certain spots, but it's not as hilly as the hill country, because that's the name of it, right? So it's not completely flat in the plains and, the prairie. Not completely, I can't talk right now. It's not completely flat in the prairies and lakes area, which is what makes up Dallas. So just kind of keep that in mind. Now, this is a perfect picture for the Piney Woods. The Piney Woods, this is really what you're going to see in East Texas. So consider East Texas as a part of Arkansas, because there's a lot of similarities in weather, a lot of similarities in the geography of that particular area. It just like West Texas, it's Also pretty sparsely populated. It's not going to be as populated as the big metro area of Dallas-Fort Worth, being one of the biggest metro areas in the United States. And there are some things that you can do in Tyler. Tyler's probably one of the most popular parts of East Texas that people like to relocate to, over in the piney woods. But these big, beautiful pine trees kind of, and there are a couple of hills. They're not completely flat over there in the piney woods. That really is what makes up a lot of the geography over there in East Texas. You do get a lot more for your money as far as affordability goes, both in West Texas and East Texas. And I think that's also mainly due to the sparseness in the population compared to larger cities like Dallas and Fort Worth. Do what?
Did you use the word affordability?
I did.
What is that?
I don't know. You don't know what
under $1 million? You mean you didn't offer $800,000 over asking price? Is that what you mean?
$800,000 over asking? No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying you could probably find a property, I would say so depending on where it's located.
Right.
I'm sure you could find something for $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 in pretty decent shape, either in West Texas or East Texas, depending on where it's located, how big the surrounding cities are and whatnot. Yeah. Because there are small cities in between Dallas and Tyler that you could, become a part of. Quinlan is one of them. So it just really depends. Obviously the bigger the population, I would say the bigger the price tag.
I think your value is always going to be determined by a few things: strong schools, proximity to hospitals, shops, restaurants, emergency places, fire, police, right, safety. So yeah, I mean, look, some people like to be out there, right? Some people like to live remotely like that, and right. Quite frankly, it doesn't sound like a bad idea.
Yeah.
I think as we get older, we kind of try to, we're around people all our lives. Now we want, what do you hear? We hear out here, we want space between neighbors. We get people from, California, from Arizona, from Seattle, from Maine, from, Oregon. They want space. They want space between neighbors. And here, with the hill country, that's easy to do. Usually it takes 1.5 to 3 acres to get that kind of space between neighbors. But they've got money to spend. So either they're going to buy the land, which they do, and then build, or they find a move-in ready home and they're set.
Right.
Yeah.
So Skills had a question. I think this is more of a comment. He said there's some wind noise from Rod, Mike. Is there any way he can move somewhere? Since it's hard to understand him. So
I'm going to sing.
You're going to sing?
Microphone.
Okay.
Yeah, it's tough. I apologize. It's just kind of really, really hard to find while keeping the signal. If I maybe move away from the water and I get some areas that block the wind, maybe that'll work. You can see the gazebo behind me. How about that?
Yeah.
Everywhere you look. See, there's the wind again. I'm sorry. I am sorry.
So he did have a question about Harvey. He said, but you may or may not know, because you really weren't as close to these areas. It says, what are the areas in Sugar Land or Missouri City that didn't flood during Harvey?
Asking me?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Harvey was what, 2015?
I think so.
Yeah, I was in Detroit.
You were in Detroit.
I was in Detroit. So if Harvey was 2015 or 2016, I was in Detroit. So I apologize. I can't account for that, but I'm going to straighten this out. There you go. No, I don't know. I have no idea.
I mean, and I would say one of the downsides to living in South Texas, if you're in that Houston area or even living closer to a body of water, is the potential to flooding, right? If you buy a property and it's close to a river, or if you buy a property and it's close to a pond or a lake, I mean, there's always going to be that extra potential and risk for flooding, especially if you're living along the coast.
There is here, I mean, rivers, but now it's required that your house is elevated if you're on the river, because obviously liability if it's not. But there are still some places that, I mean, like I said, maybe this year we'll get a ton of rain. Who knows? But we really haven't seen anything. We've had hail, damaging hail. I think that was 3.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, in Canyon Lake area, so further north from us. And we saw some of it here, but as you climb a little bit, again, the weather gets cooler, and it's just a mixed bag of stuff at times. So, but flooding, I mean, I'm going to jinx, right? We're probably going to have it this year.
Right.
We're not going to have any, but if it floods, you're going to see like this. Maybe that's going to creep on the grass a little bit, but that's it. I mean, but it can get much worse if it's a sustainable rain, right? If it's something that's going to rain for hours, you're in trouble. Anybody's in trouble. I don't care where you're at. The ground is going to be covered. It's going to get soft. It's going to soak, and then you have a lake essentially. So.
Right, but I would say that anywhere along the coast, I mean, no matter if you're in the Gulf of Mexico or you're in North Carolina, if you're anywhere along the coast, you have a higher risk of flood hazard. I mean, that's just pretty normal in general. I would say I do want to kind of point out too, one of the benefits of being next to the coast is that you are at the beach, right? So you are, say, 3 hours from the beach.
Yeah, I think we're about 3 hours. Yeah, about 3 hours.
3 hours to the beach. I mean, that is a pretty big plus to living closer and living in South Texas, is that you are closer to the beach.
Yeah.
You can take a family trip out there, and it's not going to be 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, which is probably closer to what my drive would be from North Texas.
Yeah, a lot of people. I mean, that's a weekend trip. We haven't been. God, it's been probably 10 years.
Well, and South Padre is not that far either. That's another popular place.
Yeah. That's a long time ago.
Now, this next part really speaks to New Braunfels, because New Braunfels has a pretty rich history.
Yeah.
And so do parts of South Texas, like San Antonio, where they have a lot of the Spanish missions. The Texas-Mexican War, the fight of we have the Alamo in San Antonio, which is a very historical, popular place that people go to when they're in South Texas. And then you also have the German influences. This is kind of the hill country, nice, beautiful, right? Blue bonnets. Well, we need to have just a video about blue bonnets, because that's pretty significant here in Texas. But you've got New Braunfels and Fredericksburg that were both very heavily influenced by the Germans. And then we've got, so tell us a little bit about that German history that's so rich there in New Braunfels, and then also in Fredericksburg there too.
Yeah, so I mean, what was important to the Germans 176 years ago when New Braunfels was founded?
Hey, Brad, you're sorry, I have to interrupt. It's very, very difficult to hear you. Not necessarily because of the wind, but just because your volume level, I can't really hear.
Okay, can you hear me now?
A little bit better.
Now?
Yes.
Okay, let me see if I can move back. I'll kind of walk around. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, that's good.
All right, so New Braunfels was founded by Prince Solms of Braunfels, Germany. Okay, so that was 176 years ago this year. And this was a place that was rich in, obviously, water and hill country. And the water part of it was especially important for the early settlers. And so before the Germans, there were the Native Americans, obviously. And this area was popular with Native Americans because, again, the high points, the lookout places, right, and the fresh water. So that was true of Prince Solms as well when he moved here. Interestingly enough, he bought he bought, if I want to say, over 1,100 acres for around $1,000 back in the day. So it's now known as New Braunfels. And then a man and his, I believe, 2 or 3 sons came a couple years after Prince Solms did. And they wanted some land in New Braunfels. Interesting story. There was none left. So they moved, a couple miles over, and they hit a town, and today it's called Green. So that's the story there, discovered by somebody else who found there was no land in New Braunfels at the time that he could get. And the rest is history. Of course, Green Hall's been there forever. Very much heavily German influenced. It's a lot of old money, I would say.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's probably dissipated a little bit over the years. But we still celebrate our German heritage here. We have Wurstfest, the restaurants that we have here, the holiday season. We have German words and German names like Das Haus, spelled differently. Our city recreation center, Rebecca, is called Das Rec. So again, still very heavily influenced, maybe smaller in numbers. I don't know what the numbers are, but you can see it. Our heritage, both Hispanic and German heritage. It's I'm being attacked by a killer duck. Being, in our restaurants, in our events as well. But yeah, it's you get a little bit of each. You get Hispanic, you get German, and
are there any like Hispanic German fusions that people are experimenting with, like as far as food goes, or not really?
Not that I'm aware of. It's typically that particular restaurant, and no, not that I'm aware of. There might be out there. I just haven't seen anything. No, but I mean, it's not. I want to say it's not as pronounced. I haven't noticed that the cultures are that pronounced, where you see people wearing, cultural clothing, except
Lederhosen.
Yeah, I mean, except for Wurstfest. That's when you see people from head to toe. Okay, that's when you really see the celebration of the culture. I would imagine it's going to be like that for, if you're in a city with a lot of Lebanese people, for example, you might have a festival. So I would imagine that kind of theme plays out all over the place.
Yeah.
But I don't really notice it. It's not like, you say, hey, are you German? I just, the people here are great. The people here are nice. But I will tell you, there's still that German influence for the founder and the early settlers, and the reflection of not only the area, not only the city, but the names of businesses, the names of city service places. So it's still very much present.
Oh, that's really interesting. Kind of going. So there's another.
And I just want to say one more thing. That historical part of New Braunfels is amazing. I mean, you feel like you are in an old world setting. So especially downtown New Braunfels, a lot of these buildings that were once homes are now businesses. So they've kind of been repurposed. But a lot of these places are, 1875, late 1800s, 1900s. So there's a lot of historical charm in New Braunfels, also in Green as well. That traffic circle is about 150 years old. So people are drawn to that kind of stuff because it's not a downtown area you're going to see in every city where you can just park your car and walk. There's a gazebo, there's an island there. There's mom and pop restaurants, and it's a charm. It's something you feel. There's it's not corporate America downtown New Braunfels. We got a place for that. We got big box stores a couple miles from downtown, and people go. But if you're coming to downtown New Braunfels, people love it because they can park, they can walk to a restaurant, they can shop, they can drink, they can go take pictures at the gazebo, they can just walk around, they can have a cup of coffee. Or if you're down in Green, obviously, you park and do the same thing. So walkability's
pretty good then.
Once you're downtown, absolutely, yeah. And it's I'm glad you mentioned that too, Rebecca, because New Braunfels is a golf cart community. So as long as you're 35 miles an hour or below, and I see people driving downtown with golf carts. Not all the time. It's not, you don't see 50 or 60 at a time, but maybe one or two. But in the neighborhoods, absolutely, all the time.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
So it's laid back.
Yeah.
Life slows down here a little bit.
Yeah. Sure. So kind of going back to this article, I really like this article a lot just because it really touched on all the parts of Texas. But there's a lot of, the Spanish missions that we were talking about a little bit in San Antonio that are in, southern Texas or South Texas. And then obviously you can't, and you got, it says cowboy, there's a certain sort of cowboy culture found in Bandera. I've never been to Bandera. Have you been to Bandera? Do you know where?
Never.
Okay, never been to Bandera. So we'll just take them for their word and assume that has a pretty strong cowboy influence over there. But obviously you can't ever, visit South Texas without going to Austin, right? Austin is its own animal, right?
You can if you want to avoid the traffic, but I know what you're saying.
Right. And there are a lot of people that are attracted to Austin because there are a lot of jobs that are there.
High-paying jobs too.
High-paying jobs.
White collar, yeah.
Okay. It's also got South by Southwest that's there.
Yeah.
Too.
I mean, who's not there, right? Elon Musk is there. Facebook offices are growing there. Dell Computers there. Apple's there.
Yeah.
So, people calling it the Silicon Valley 2. It's interesting because, oh no, we're not Silicon Valley 2. Well, I mean, ever since the pandemic, people cannot flee the Bay Area in California fast enough, and that's where they're landing. That's their vibe.
Yeah.
Look, we can talk about rivers all day.
Yeah.
You're not going to move here if you have different beliefs. You're just not going to move here. If you're, let's just flat out, if you're liberal, you're going to probably go to Austin. You're going to probably head to San Antonio. If you're conservative values, this is the place. Flat out. Do people ask? Maybe one or two families every now and again, but people know. They know what New Braunfels is like. New Braunfels goes along the route of the rest of the state of Texas. So, Austin, I like Austin.
Yeah.
Because it's got, because of the food. Honestly, I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of great food in New Braunfels. I just don't eat meat a lot. So I'm like, you put me in a town where, I don't eat meat. And there's a lot of meat here, right?
Yeah. German influence. So, it's going to have meat.
Right. Well, barbecue too.
Barbecue.
There's a barbecue restaurant every 5 feet, in Texas in general.
Yeah.
But Austin's got, it's got the, you've got your health foods and stuff like that. That's a little bit more my vibe.
Yeah.
But I'm fine. I'm fine. It's really laid back here. People are friendly. I'm good with fish and black beans every day. That's fine.
Yeah.
If I don't have to pay the taxes in Austin, or I don't have to deal with I think people to me, when I go there, seem a little bit more uptight. Than here.
Right.
They're nice people, but it's you get a different feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. It's more of that city vibe, that go. So it's going to cater to a lot more of, I believe, just different types of food, and also more of the vegan, vegetarian, kind of lifestyle. Because there are a lot of people that live there that have that kind of lifestyle. So they're restaurants that are kind of catered to that kind of person. So it really does make a lot of sense. And I do feel like a lot of your outskirts, so, like New Braunfels, like parts of East Texas that have fewer population, I would say probably they're more of a meat and potatoes kind of community in general. You're not going to see a whole lot of non-meat options in those areas. And I think that's important for people to realize too, when they are moving to an area that is a little bit more rural and a little bit more outside of town. People hunt deer and you get deer jerky, and that's part of,
And you have Buc-ee's too. You have Buc-ee's gas station.
And
it's interesting. Yeah. A family calls today, and they just bought land in Vintage Oaks, which is one of our communities here. And they're in Austin. They just sold their house for $150 gazillion over asking price. You know how it goes.
Right.
So they're in a good position, and they said, it's a Asian family, and they want to know, hey, is there much diversity in New Braunfels? To me, there's not. But I'm from the Detroit area, where there wasn't a lot of diversity. Where I was from, people were like, well, we have Iraqis, we have Lebanese. I'm like, that's not diverse, folks. We're all from the Middle East. When I was growing up, it was German, Polish, Italian, Arab. What else? Everybody else. Probably people the same way, or maybe watching, maybe you too. But it's not. We want to know if it's going to be diverse. Well, depends on what your definition of diverse is, but they were asking something. They want it to be the United Nations. It's not like that in New Braunfels.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's not. In Austin, probably more, especially in Round Rock, but not here, no.
No, I think that a lot of the larger cities probably have more diversity to them. And I believe more of the rural areas, like you said, there's just not a whole lot of diversity there.
No, and you see that reflective or not reflected in the restaurants or in the food.
Right.
It's just, you can't say, well, we should put this kind of restaurant here. Well, nobody's going to go.
Right.
If there are enough people moving to that area, then somebody will figure it out. Right. They're not going to open up a Middle Eastern Lebanese place in the middle of New Braunfels, because it's like, it's just the population doesn't warrant that.
Correct. Yeah.
Or another restaurant, whatever it is. So.
Right.
But you can still go to San Antonio or to Austin.
Right.
If you
and get what you need from those areas.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No, that's a good point for people to kind of consider when they think about the diversity. Like, it's not just about the food in the certain areas. It's, do your homework, do your research. Obviously there's stats online where you can go and take a look and see what that looks like for a certain area if you're considering it. But yeah, that's a really good point to bring up.
They can head to the channel too. Everything about New Braunfels, about living in New Braunfels and what it's like to live here. Reasons you should move here. Reasons you shouldn't move here. I've kind of grown into this area, Rebecca, because my wife's from here. Mm-hmm. So this is going back 13 years. I've been coming back now, until I moved here permanently, going on 3 years ago. But I've been coming here for about 13 years. And just the growth has just been like through the roof. We doubled our population here since 2010. Yeah. So we've gone from 44,000 to we may be over 100,000 already.
Wow.
So
that's incredible.
Yeah, but geographically,
you're becoming a suburb of Austin.
What's that?
Did you hear me? I said you're becoming a suburb of Austin.
Don't say that. Yeah, okay. Is New Braunfels becoming Austin? I think.
That's a great topic. You should make a video about it.
I think we're doing that this week. Yeah, it is interesting because the prices,
Yeah.
But
they're going up everywhere.
I don't know what we're going to see. Seriously, people are very, here, they're very friendly, right? Yeah. They embrace you. They just don't want you to ram them over with your ideals and they don't want you to say, well, now we're here, you do as I say. Then no.
Yeah.
You know, we don't call the police. Where's that gun? Where's that gun? You know, I mean, no, I'm not. That's just But people here are friendly. Look, they want to embrace you. They just don't want to get, they don't want people shut. But it's like that anywhere.
Right.
But you're fine. Come on into my house. Just don't take it over.
Right.
Let's have a meal. Just don't eat all the food.
Right. Yeah.
So, but people, get concerned. They're a little freaked out because they don't know. I mean, they know that people are friendly. But what I'm finding out is that people that I engage with move here for all the same reasons. So everybody wants to be around the people that I'm engaging with, like-minded people, and that's why they're moving to New Braunfels.
So we have some more questions. Paramad NT says, the feel of various cities. Can one of you please comment on the feel, uptight versus relaxed, for Houston suburbs like Sugar Land compared, Austin versus Dallas suburbs like Frisco, Plano, et cetera. So they're trying to figure out, I guess, if you were to move to Austin or you were to move to New Braunfels, or Round Rock, or any of the outlying suburbs to Austin, or Sugar Land, if it's an outlying suburb to Houston, what is the uptight versus relaxed?
I think, okay, maybe uptight is not the exact word. I mean, thanks for the question.
Yeah, thank you.
I think that it means this. What we do requires us to, if we're doing community videos, to walk into a business and say, hey, can we film can we do a story on you guys? Like an outreach thing. Well, I got to talk to 10 people.
And that would be like in Austin.
What is this
right?
for?
There's more red tape over permission to do things.
Yeah, here it's just like, come on in. I'm the owner. I've owned it for 150 years. There's a when I mean relaxed, I mean there's a trust factor from the start. Something I am not used to.
Yeah.
So if I ever moved back someday, I would have to mentally prepare myself for that but I'm serious though.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you'd be like, whoa. I mean, it would just be a whole different scenario. It's to the point where when people come to New Braunfels, and this might have answer his question.
Or her question.
Then people, like, I had a family come here. They went to Buc-ee's. They accidentally bumped into a family behind them, and they were freaking out because they're from California. They're like, oh my God, they're going to shoot us. And that family from New Braunfels turned around and said, oh, I'm sorry. So that's what kind of community it is. You know what I'm saying? Very welcoming, very, and even at the park, people wave all the time. If you're driving through a neighborhood, they're waving at you. So when people come here, they're a little like, what do they want from me? They're so nice. It's like
I wouldn't generalize the uptight and relaxed for all of Austin, because there are parts of Austin that are probably a little bit more relaxed. I would say it's probably more or less, to me, it's more of busy versus not busy is the better probably way to describe it. So like in the city of Austin, it's busy, 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 go, 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 go. Whereas outside of Austin, it's probably, like where you're located, it's hard to be go, 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 because let's take a siesta, let's go canoeing, let's go do all these other things, right?
You got water, right? You got stuff to do. Yeah.
Right. So I think it just kind of, if you're more in the heart of the city, you're gonna experience more of that go, 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 go. And as you move away from the city, and the further that you move away from the city, it's going to give you a little bit more. You almost feel like you can breathe, and you're like, it's the same feeling of New York City versus New York State. Two totally different areas, right? New York City is more like go, 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 go. New York State, probably a little bit more laid back, has more of a country vibe to it, right? So that's probably more or less a better description, would you say?
I would think so. Yeah, I think any large city, it's going to become more impersonal.
That's true.
And
Yeah.
then anything outside that, I think it's like that anywhere, though. I mean,
Right.
it's in your remote areas. Yeah, I mean,
Everybody's family.
there are
There's
fewer
only fewer
people,
people.
so you
Yeah.
know more people.
Right.
I think when you're in smaller cities, it's like that. In the larger cities, it's a little bit more distant. And I think we're spoiled in that sense, where we're at.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No,
I'm
I
not
think
sure. Does that answer her question?
I think she's still on, so we'll see if she comments a little bit later. This next one's for me. She was saying, if one were to consider 1 acre homes, are there one, say, in Louisville, Carrollton area, or Plano, Frisco, or Allen? I would say if you're looking at a home that has a lot of acreage, it's going to be more difficult to find if you're in those cities, unless it's an older home. Usually a lot of older homes are going to have larger lots, or it's in a very expensive area to where all of the lots were right around an acre and they have little mini mansions essentially on them. If you go further outside of those areas, you will find, larger lots in some cases, but not all. And it is hard to find acreage just outside the city. Let's say 30 minutes outside the city in Dallas, in that particular area, it is harder to find land sometimes. Even you have to go even further out, closer to an hour outside of town before you can really get more affordability for land is more or less.
It sounds like the same here. I mean, the closer you are to the nucleus, the more expensive it's going to be.
Yeah.
If you're off the grid, not so much, but you're off the grid.
Yeah.
So.
And then she was saying, what communities can one look for? Or he was saying, I'm not sure. But like we were talking about, just a little bit more remote, and you could probably find more or less what you're looking for.
And that means septic tank. That means lake water with water softeners. Is that what that means?
Not necessarily. For sure, it's going to mean septic. But as far
propane and stuff.
Yeah, maybe propane, maybe. But it's going to be more or less. For sure, septic, maybe propane. Most of the other resources you can get, they have like little utilities districts set up for those more remote areas.
That's when it costs like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it costs a lot of money, or taxes anyway. So, but I mean, it balances out. If you're more remote, you're paying less for the land probably, and less for the home. So. Right.
So they're also mentioning, let's see, more areas.
Everybody's stuck on our relaxed, uptight stuff.
I know. It's okay. It's okay.
Uptight places to live, relaxed places.
Let's see. If the outskirts, which area may be preferred? She's talking to me, Melissa versus Little Elm. I would say probably Melissa, because Little Elm is a little bit more in cityized. If that's a word. It's
cityized. Let me see.
Cityized. It's more in the city.
It's a word.
Yeah. Yeah. Because Melissa, and even parts of Weston, which are not too far away from Melissa, might be what you're looking for too. So let me know afterwards. I have my info in the chat if you need to ask me further about some of those areas. But
you are the expert.
Land is hard to find, just in general.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have the same issue.
Yeah, we're running out of it. I mean, there's one community that it's called Vintage Oaks, and a 12-year community is probably going to close out. And there's a rancher in there who's not going to sell his 2,000 acres. So when it's out, it's out. But they just released essentially the final lots today, yesterday, and they've sold 16 of the 22. 13 went for cash.
Wow.
So people are buying an acre and a half. They're buying the acre and a half beside them. They're not going to do anything. They just want it as a buffer.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, and these acres are going, oh, I mean, just below 2 acres is going for 288.
That's very cheap.
288 is cheap?
Does that just for the land, not for the improvement, right?
No, just for the land. Yeah.
Okay,
288 for under 2 acres.
okay. That
Yeah.
is a little bit more. Yeah. Okay. I was thinking with the house and the
Oh,
land.
no.
And I was like, dang.
If that's your hope, no. You don't want to come this way. No.
Okay.
People can't even build and buy land and build for 600,000.
Okay. Okay.
Or it'd be because the builders, the minimum they can build is 2,300 square feet, and you're going to get, after options, you get up to $200 a square foot.
Okay.
So it's it's tough. Yeah.
I would say Fort Worth is pretty. If you're debating between which two of the cities, Fort Worth is pretty inexpensive, and they are building a lot of over there on that side of town. So, of the two cities, we had to take a tail. Fort Worth is definitely the more affordable end, but it is more of the country as far as there's more cowboy influence on that side of town too.
In Fort Worth?
In Fort Worth, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so Giovanni has a question. He says, do you think Houston is more expensive than Dallas? Ooh, that's a good question. Well, let's take a look. Let me, I was gonna pull up Zillow. We'll see.
A cost of living comparison?
Yeah, or maybe I'll just do realtor.com.
I want to say, I know Austin's the most expensive.
Yeah, Austin's the most. I think Dallas is probably more. So I'm pretty sure. I think I read something that said Dallas is more expensive, and that's probably true.
Than Houston. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Houston.
I did a cost of living thing last year, and I think Houston was one of the more affordable places.
Right. Yeah. Correct. Let's see where it takes us. That's not bad. Under 200,000 in Houston. 135 in Houston. But I'm sure that these aren't very desirable places, parts of Houston. Or they're really old, like this looks like
they fixer uppers or something.
Yeah. One has a pool.
I mean, you couldn't buy a tent here for $150,000.
Right. There's one for 1.1, but see, I mean, this is probably Houston is the large metro area. So let's kind of comparatively see what comes up when I just type in Dallas. Oh. Okay. I was thinking about it. Oh, wow. Those are beautiful ones. Okay, so we've got a couple of hundred ones too. But I mean, 3-bed, 1.5 bath. I mean, that's pretty, $250,000. But I would say pretty median, pretty run of the mill is going to be closer to 300 now. I would say 300 is probably more of a common median for Dallas. If you want something like this, $300,000. If you want something that's, not as nice, it's going to cost you, 200, 250. And then something that's really run down, like 118 square feet. You can get condos. See, this is the condo for this is a nice condo, actually. $140,000. So, and the condo market is different, depending on the area too that you want to settle. I think people are moving out of the city though, and that's why the condo market is not as vibrant for sure. So
yeah, well, they don't have to work in the city anymore. I mean, I think I honestly think we stumbled on something last year, Rebecca. I think that there's no need for offices if you don't have to be in one. What's the purpose? You want to share a slice of pizza? Well, go on the weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, really, what are offices for? You have cubicles. Aren't people more productive from home for the most part?
Yeah.
So I think it changes. It just changes dynamics. States have to understand that, look, we're no longer tethered to you.
Right.
Sayonara, I mean, see you later. I mean, you're losing tax base. But, I just think that's just such a game changer.
Yeah.
Because
that was the biggest game changer out of the pandemic, was the shift to working remotely.
Yeah.
And then after people realized, hey, we can work remotely, why am I still here?
Yeah, why am I still here?
Why am I not in New Braunfels with Rod?
Hey, guess what, guys? We're going to come back to the office. For what? What do you have to go back for? You want to share, like I said, you want to meet and talk gossip about the water cooler? Is that what the office is for? The office is like so.
Or be micromanaged by someone in the office.
Yeah, I mean, it's so 1800s now. I mean, the office is becoming a dinosaur since Zoom. Since working remote, there is just, in my opinion, there's no need for it unless you're a doctor. Of course, you have to go in. Unless you make cars, of course, you have to go in.
Right. Yeah, certain businesses are going to still require an office space, but I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, but I just think it completely changes the landscape where states are going to have to bend over backwards to keep people.
Yeah.
And not I don't want to say encourage them to leave, but not make them upset where they feel they have to leave. So.
Right. Yeah. So he had one more follow-up question. He was, how much does a couple need to have, I think what he's trying to get at, how much is it, house, I don't know exactly, Giovanni, if you're talking about like how much money do you need to make, or how much is the house going to be for you to live comfortably in either North Texas or South Texas. I would say it really just depends on your situation and your circumstances, because if you can live further outside of town and you can live in, East Texas, which has all those beautiful pine trees, or live closer to a lake, or, and you want to explore that and you want to do that a little bit more, and you're going to get a lot more for your money in that type of housing, right? If you're closer to the city, you're going to be burning through money pretty quick as far as how much house you can afford, because you can afford maybe a smaller space on a smaller lot if you're closer to the city. And if you're needing to be in the city and you need that convenience of, I don't want to have to drive 20 minutes to a grocery store, I'd like it to be right around the corner, then you're going to be paying for that convenience in the city. So it really just depends on what you want to do.
I guess it doesn't depend on what he means by comfortable. Does it mean, having 4 yachts? What does that mean?
Right.
To live comfortably. I have no clue. That could mean something completely different for 2 different people. So I guess I would ask him, Giovanni, if you can be more specific with that question. Have a comfortable life. What does that mean? Eating a bologna sandwich once a week? I have no clue what that means. If it means like the median family income here in Braunfels is $75,000. Your medium home is pushing 300, close to Dallas. I think it's Dallas.
Yeah.
So it's different for people in general. What does it mean to be comfortable? Does it mean to have 1 or 2 acres and a new build?
He may be talking about comfort in the sense that it's like, I have a little money extra after I pay my mortgage and after all the bills are paid, and I actually have money that I can put into savings. To me, that would be comfort, because then I have that extra money to do whatever I want with it, and have that extra comfort knowing that I can put it into savings. I can invest it in the stock market. I can really do what I want to do with that extra money. I think that's really, when people talk about a comfortable lifestyle, I think that's more or less what they're referring to. Wouldn't you agree?
I mean, I don't know. It means different for different people. Seriously.
That would be my interpretation. So Giovanni, you can correct us.
A comfortable life could mean living on a dirt slab and serving other people. I mean, I'm not trying to be sarcastic here. I just don't understand. I don't understand. I need him to go deeper on this.
Yeah.
Because it's going to mean, I mean, we're not financial advisors,
Right.
So what does he mean by, what is something when they say they live comfortable? These are all the questions we ask, like, when people call us, right?
Yeah.
Well, why do you want to move here? Why do you need this for? What are your non-negotiables? What's the purpose of this? I mean, so it's all different across the spectrum for people. So hey, Giovanni, I love you, man. Thanks for the question. I just give us more information.
Yeah. All right. So Paramount has another question. You may or may not know the answer to this because this is more of South Texas. So in Austin, for 1 acre property, which area is currently preferred, say amenities wise, or for future growth? Either is it Liberty Hills versus Saratoga Hills on the way to Dripping Springs? I don't know.
No clue. Sorry.
You know who you can ask is you can go to Jeremy Knight's channel.
Yeah, go to Jeremy Knight's channel. Jeremy Knight,
KNIGHT.
Right, yeah. GHT. You want to know about Austin?
Yeah.
Check out his channel because Jeremy and I and you and I bounce stuff off each other all the time.
Right.
So between the three of us, we're going to have the answer.
Right. But yeah, as far as acreage and future growth amenities, he would probably know all of those answers to that particular question.
If you're talking acreage in Austin, that's some deep pockets. Just saying that word acreage.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think anywhere it's going to be deep pockets, but yeah. So that's we're hitting. Oh my goodness. Okay, they just said thank you.
We're going to see the sunset.
Yes. Are you going to sing us? Are you going to sing us for the closing end credits?
I'm going to say there's only one S in the Braunfels.
Okay.
You'll find it at the end. There's no S in the middle, and I don't know the rest of the song.
Hey, the only one that's attributed to Dallas that I can think of is I'm going to the Big D and don't mean Dallas. That's the only thing that comes to mind.
I got a dorky tourist question.
Okay.
I've always wanted to go to South Fork.
Okay, yeah.
Is it there?
It is there. It's in Murphy Murphy. Yeah.
So it's not too far from you?
Yeah, it's not that far from me.
Because when we were kids growing up in Michigan, we watched Dallas every Friday night. I think it was Dallas Dynasty and something else. But like prime time, I know you don't know that stuff, but
you're okay. I know this show Dallas, and I know it was popular, and a lot of people from France watched Dallas.
And I don't think they actually filmed there. I think they filmed somewhere else, but that was
They might have, because that's a big chunk of land up there.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go to South Fork, never been. So
they have a lot of concerts in that area, and it's also a doubles as a wedding venue. So they venue the heck out of that place. We'll just put it that way.
What about the Cowboys, really quick? How far are you from the stadium?
So the stadium's in Arlington still, and that's a good hour, 30 minutes, because I'm in McKinney. I'm on the north side. And then but the practice field is in Frisco. So if you want to watch them practice, the new practice field is in Frisco.
Okay. Now, are there a lot of people around you who are big Dallas Cowboy fans? Or are they Houston Texan fans, or what?
I would say majority, are going to be Cowboys fans in this area. But as far as the basketball goes, it's kind of diversified, I would say, because I know several people that are diehard Spurs fans. I know several people that are diehard Lakers fans that live in Dallas. So the Mavericks, I love the Mavericks, and so does my husband. And then the Stars too are also pretty popular.
Yeah, I admire Mark Cuban. That's my only association with the Mavericks. Yeah.
It's
But I mean, he seems pretty savvy, so you know, I'll watch every now and again. But thank you so much.
yeah. And I know Premrod was asking about the lake behind you. Where's that one at again? Lake or
Landa Park.
Landa Park. So you need to go visit Rod in Landa Park. And then summer heat in Dallas, escaping summer heat. It's a good question. A lot of the museums on the inside that are very well air conditioned are a fun place to go in the summer. They're inside, so you can beat the heat and get the air conditioning there. And I would say any place that has water is going to be a good place to just kind of cool off and beat the heat too. Got kids or a lot of people like to still go outside even though it's really hot, and they'll just be under the shade, and there'll be live concerts and stuff outside and that kind of thing too.
Here it's like tubing city, like
Tubing.
That's we have a tube chute here.
Oh, cool.
That's kind of part of that dam in the Comel, and they kind of carved it out. So there's a chute there, and it's where the kids go every year when they graduate. The caps and gowns, they go down that tube with that tube chute with their own tube and their cap and gown on. It's kind of cool. But it's a fun area. So the river here in New Braunfels on the weekend, especially in the summer, or Schlitterbahn, which is a huge water park.
And that water's cold there too. I've been there when I was little, and it's probably still cold.
Yeah, but it's cold, but it's like 90 degrees or 100 degrees. So once you're in the water, right?
Yeah, once you get in the water, exactly. It's that first step. It's always the hardest to get in.
Always. Dipping your toes.
That's right. Well,
so who wins north-south?
I don't know. I would visit. If the humidity wasn't there, I'd probably live in South Texas. We'll just put it that way. I still enjoyed Dallas for the dry heat and the dry winter and the dryness. I do appreciate the dryness a lot. My hair appreciates the dryness. Because it was pretty rough. That humid heat. I mean, that knocks you over, and I can't.
It's hard to breathe. I mean, let's be frank. When it's humid outside, it's hard to breathe because of all the moisture in the air. So, and that's your weather forecast for Tuesday, April 20th.
All right. Well, we've eaten up a lot of your time in the sun setting there, and we'll say happy trails for today.
Until we meet again. Thanks, Rebecca. I appreciate it.